Good evening. I'm happy to welcome my fellow board members and call the July 26, 2018 special school board meeting to order. Whether you are in attendance here or watching from another location, my colleagues and I are pleased you took the time to join us. We appreciate and applaud your commitment to partnering with us in support of our schools, our students, our staff, and our community. While the board and Brevard Public School staff members are fully committed to doing our best to ensure excellence in Brevard Public Schools, we know that our success depends heavily on an engaged and committed community to work alongside us and help us to continually improve. Thank you for being active participants in the process. Tammy, roll call, please.
Ms. Belford?
Present.
Mr. Craig? Ms. Deskovich?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Present.
Mr. Ziegler?
Present.
Matt Reed, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to skip over superintendent and board recognitions this morning because of time constraints, and we are going to move on to adoption of the agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
Madam Chairperson and members of the board, on today's agenda we have administrative staff recommendations, 8 consent items, 4 action items, 1 information item, and 3 board member reports discussion points. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. Items A7 on administrative staff recommendations and G16 on purchasing solicitations were revised. Item F13 on 2018-2019 school resource officers was added. There were also 3 board discussion topics added, which are board meeting calendar, athletic and extracurricular funding, and athletic fields.
In the interest of time, I would like to entertain a motion to amend the adoption of the agenda to move action item G18 on Cocoa High Stadium name change to Richard Dick Blake Stadium to the front of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Deskovich, I believe it's G19.
It changed.
It switched. Sorry.
You know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. It's G19? Is it G18? Okay, sorry.
Oh, mine is 19.
Mine says 19 too.
It's G19 on our agenda.
Yep.
Doesn't matter, we know which one it is.
Did we get a second?
We had a second, absolutely, Mr. Susan, I seconded, so we
Is
just
it
need
a
to call for
voice vote?
question.
No, that's,
Voice vote?
It's ready.
Approve the agenda as amended.
Congratulations, Mr. Blake.
No.
Present.
That
It's just the agenda.
The motion to move.
Not quite yet. That was the motion to move it to the beginning of the meeting. And now, let's see.
administrative staff.
Now-
Hold on.
Administrative staff.
Now that the agenda item was amended, I would like to bring before the board item G19 on Cocoa High Stadium name change to Richard Dick Blake Stadium.
Move to approve.
Second. That opens for discussion, Ms. Deskovich, if you would like to call up your speakers.
Before we call up the speakers, we're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. We're going to call up 3 representative speakers from the supporters of Mr. Blake that want to speak because we have to go into our budget hearing at 5:30, so we want to make sure some representatives get to come up and speak on his behalf. We will allow all public comments if you want to stay through the end of the budget hearing and back into the school board meeting following the public comments. You all can continue to participate, but you're more than welcome to leave after this portion of the meeting also. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to call up the 3 speakers that want to speak on behalf as representatives from Mr. Blake, and that is Mr. Arthur Edwards,
Good evening.
Oh, let me turn you, here you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Good evening. Oh, I've got 3 minutes?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be very brief. School Board, Dr. Blackburn, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to ask everyone who's here to support the renaming of the Coco Stadium to please stand up. Do it quick. You owe my 3 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. I think you all have in your hands a letter that I wrote. Just to give you some background on myself, I arrived in Brevard County in 1967 as an engineering student out of Florida A&M University working at Kennedy Space Center for NASA. I came back and worked permanently beginning in 1970. During that time, it was kind of tumultuous. There was a lot of change going on. And one of the things that was happening was desegregation. I applaud the school board because you recognize teachers that had taught during that period. That was an activity, I believe it was in June of this year, where you made that recognition. And in my mind, this is just a natural extension to that recognition, is the recognition of an individual that made a tremendous contribution. Because I can tell you, Dick Blake not only impacted Brevard County, Dick Blake impacted the United States of America. The success that he had as a principal at Cocoa High School affected this entire nation. And I think it would be quite fitting if we were to do that. This is an excellent opportunity to not only recognize him at this moment in time, but in a perpetual fashion. So 20 years from now, when kids look at the stadium and say, who is Dick Blake? It opens up a conversation. And that conversation can dwell on the fact that here's a man that was really above and beyond. Here's a man that is very, very special. And that's testament by all the people being here in support of that. So I'm watching the clock. With that, I would just like to say I'm thanking you in advance for what I consider to be your great decision tonight to rename Cocoa High School Stadium the Dick Blake Stadium. And I'm within my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Joe Lee Smith. And after Mr. Smith, we'll hear from Thomas Cole.
To Mr. Craig, Chairman, in his absence, Madam Chairman, other members of the board, Dr. Blackburn, I am highly humble and most delighted and appreciative to be here this afternoon to speak on behalf of the renaming of the Cocoa High School Stadium to the Richard Dick Blake Stadium. We have been friends for a lifetime. He is a native of Cocoa and a very proud graduate of the prestigious Brevard County Public Schools. This is in addition to, naturally, for him going on, doing undergraduate and graduate work at various universities. I know many people want to speak, so I'm just going to summarize it and say this. As a native Brevardian as he is, he has gotten involved in so many community activities that I think it would take most of this meeting to name them and talk about what service he provided. But one in particular that he served for many years, and that is the Wusthof Hospital Board. He did a wonderful job, and his name is forever being discussed and talked about in the positive there. He also served as a member of the Rockledge City Council for 40 years, and a very effective city councilman. I've had the opportunity to serve with him. He is a wonderful individual, a family man. He's a churchgoer. He's a law-abiding citizen and a God-fearing man. He's a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Excuse me, Dr. Blackburn. Got an alpha in the house. But nevertheless, Mr. Blake has done a wonderful job. And not only that, he's a member on the Rockledge City Council, for, oh my God, 40 years, and the principal of Cocoa High School for 24 years. And with all of that, as a mentor and as a teacher, he has touched the lives of so many people. And we're just hoping that this name of Richard Dick Blake Stadium will be a unanimous vote by you as board members. And also, as you travel through the state and meet new people, when you mention Cocoa, they're going to talk to you about Tiger Pride, and the head tiger. And they will know that you're talking about who? Dick Blake. Congratulations, Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Thomas Cole.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Cole, and I currently serve as the principal for Emma Joy Charter Academy. Obviously, I'm here to speak on behalf of Mr. Richard Blake as it relates to naming this stadium. Every single day that I walk through the halls of Emma Joy, through the corridors, I have an opportunity to touch lives of so many different scholars. But I'm only able to do that is because I'm standing on the shoulders of a legend. Mr. Richard Blake served as a mentor to me. Mr. Richard Blake served as a model every single day of what a respectable educational leader should be. This is something I saw every single day as a student at Cocoa High School. He served as a mentor to me. So many others he serves as a mentor for. He has touched so many lives in so many different facets of our nation, whether it may be accounting, whether it may be lawyer, medical, whatever the case may be. And I know we've all heard that cliche before as far as opening up the doors for other folks. That was not enough for Mr. Blake just to open up the door. Mr. Blake would open up the door, keep his foot in it, and make sure everybody else could come through as well too. And once you get through that door, he continued to check on you to make sure you're okay. There's so many different times I've sat in that man's living room as he mentored me with the challenges that I went through as an instructional leader, as a principal. But the things I go through today are minimal compared to the challenges he went through as the first African-American principal in this county. And I would never, ever, ever, ever be disrespectful and think I know what he went through, because I could never imagine the things he went through as a man of color. But he did that every single day with class, with dignity. From the first day he stepped on Cocoa High School campus, he continued to display that class, dignity, and mentorship up until the last day he stepped on that campus. So I implore you to please do more than just consider this. Let's make this happen, to make that be official, Richard Dick Blake Stadium. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's now our time to discuss as a board, and I would like to read a letter from our chairman, John Craig, who is unable to be with us tonight, on your behalf, Mr. Blake. It says, fellow school board members, please accept this note as my public comment for item G18, the renaming of Cocoa High Stadium to honor Richard Dick Blake. Mr. Blake remains an icon in the greater Brevard community. His legacy at Brevard Public Schools, specifically Cocoa High, is that of a true educational leader, a respected mentor, and a dedicated pioneer. Honoring his legacy by renaming this stadium is a testament to the impact Mr. Blake continues to make on our community. I fully support waiving the 5-year elected official clause in our current board policy. Now is the time to honor Mr. Blake, to show our appreciation for his role in making Brevard Public Schools the finest district in Florida. I hope you will join me in providing unanimous support for this initiative. Board, is there any more discussion?
Mr. Cole, you couldn't be more correct. Dick Blake has been, to me, has been a very good friend, a mentor, an inspiration. I think I've even called you Dad a few times, haven't I? I'll tell you, it's an honor to be able to support such a great recommendation to somebody that has been around so long, and thankfully, and hopefully you still will be around with us for a long time to come to enjoy the naming of your stadium. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Blackburn.
I think it was about 3 years ago at my very first CivMill meeting where I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Blake, largely because he was the loudest person in the room. Since then, I've had the opportunity to break bread with you, sir. I've had the opportunity to sit on that couch in your living room as well and receive mentorship. Without a doubt, there is no question in my mind that without Dick Blake demolishing the color barriers, that there would be no Desmond Blackburn as superintendent of Brevard. So congratulations, sir. I couldn't think of any item more fitting to put forth as one of my final acts as superintendent of this great district. Congratulations.
All right, are we ready for a vote? Can we vote? We can vote digitally.
Mine's not coming up.
Mine neither.
Want to do voice vote?
It's going to have to be a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Congratulations, Mr. Blake. Thank you again, Mr. Blake, for all that you've done for our community. We appreciate it. Again, I'm going to remind you all that we are going to move on with our meeting. If you have public comments more for Mr. Blake, they're going to have to be at the very end of our meeting. We have to move on with our agenda items. So you're welcome to stay till the end of the meeting and share with us your 3 minutes, or you're welcome to leave now if you would like. Thank you. You're welcome to stay.
I know we're continuing, but I've got...
Okay. Dr. Blackburn. Dr. Blackburn, would you please let us know about the administrative staff recommendations?
Absolutely, Mrs. Deskovich. There are 3 individuals for the board to consider.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve?
Second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Call for vote.
Call for a vote.
It's online.
We got it.
Motion passes 4-0.
At this time, I would like to recognize the administrative staff member here with us this evening. Please join me in congratulating Brandy Griswell on her on her reclassification transfer from the position of assistant principal 10-month at Palm Bay High School to the position of assistant principal 12-month at Madison Middle School on annual contract effective July 25, 2018.
Thank you, Dr. Blackburn and school board members. I am so excited to stand here before you. I have been working in this school district for a number of years, and I have seen some amazing things happen. So great things from students and great teachers, and I have been blessed to work with many of them. So I have learned lots of those lessons, and I'm going to put that to work for the kids at Madison Middle School. So thank you very much.
Ms. Griswell, if you're half as good of a principal as you were a teacher, I had the honor of teaching with you. It was amazing to be down the hall from you. The effort you put into that was absolutely amazing. Thank you for being a part of our school program. Thank you.
Any more comments? Any more comments, Mr. Siegler? Anyone? Okay. Congratulations. We will now recess the special board meeting and open our first public hearing for the 2018-2019 proposed millage rates and tentative budget. Dr. Blackburn.
Madam Chairperson and members of the board, Mrs. Penny Zerker, Chief Financial Officer, will make a presentation on the proposed 2018-2019 budget and millage levy.
Good evening. Tonight we are here to conduct the first public hearing as required by the Truth in Millage Law. Following the presentation regarding the 2018-19 proposed millage and tentative budget, we will allow for public comments on both the proposed millage levy and the tentative budget. The board will then consider 3 recommendations by Dr. Blackburn. 1, adoption of the proposed 2018-19 millage rates. 2, adoption of the 2018-19 tentative budget. And 3, authorizing the superintendent to notify the property appraiser and tax collector of the proposed millage and rollback rates and date and time of the second and final public hearing, as well as adjusting the revenues and expenditures in the tentative budget, if necessary, prior to the final hearing. Just a quick recap of where we are within the process. We're almost to the end. We started back in January with the opening of the legislative session, which closed in March. We also received our conference report in March. We've held 3 budget workshops with the board, 2 in April and 1 in June. Middle of July, we received the certified property values from the property appraiser and our second calculation from the Department of Education. Tonight, we're at the tentative budget hearing, and next to come will be the final hearing. Tonight's presentation, we will be reviewing enrollment projections, taxable property values, proposed millage, the proposed budget, and next steps in the budget process. This is a historical review of the district's student membership over the last 10 years, as well as projected 2018-19. Student membership represents the number of students being served for one or more periods in a school. From 2007-8 through 2012-13, the district saw a decline in membership of 2,709 students, or 3.6%. Since 2012-13, the district has seen an increase in membership of 2,780 students, or 3.8%, offsetting the losses of the previous 6 years. For 2018-19 school year, the district is projecting to serve 75,306 students. Student membership is converted to full-time equivalents, or FTE, for funding purposes. An FTE represents a student's actual seat time in class. FTE is typically lower than student membership. There are several reasons this occurs. One example includes a homeschooled student who takes a class at one of our high schools. For the homeschool student is counted as 1 student for membership and 0.17 for FTE. Similar to the student membership, the district saw a decline of 3,310 FTE from 2007-8 through 2013-14. The district has seen an increase of 2,550 FTE since 2014-15, partially offsetting the losses of the previous 6 years. Our projected FTE for 2018-19 is 72,706. Brevard County experienced double-digit decreases in taxable property values in 2009-10 through 2011-12 school years, for a total decline of 44.3%. Since 2011-12, taxable property values have risen 51.9%. As of the 2018-19 fiscal year, the county's property values have exceeded the high of 2008-9 by 2.2%. Proposed millage rates include the required local effort, or RLE, which is 4.051. It is important to note that while the board levies this tax, the state requires the board to do so in order to receive state funding through the Florida Education Finance Program. The RLE makes up 64.3% of the total millage levy. The discretionary local effort millage is 0.748. The state guarantees the local discretionary funding at $520.18 per FTE. The discretionary millage at the 2018-19 taxable property value provides only $417.19 per FTE. As a result, the district will receive an additional $102.99 per FTE from the state, or $7,487,945. The local capital improvement millage, or LCI, is 1.5 mils. The LCI millage will provide the district $61,300,909. $31,561,000 of the millage is used to pay the district's debt service, and $28,961,000 to fund the district's needs. Looking at a 10-year history of millage rates levied by the School Board of Brevard County, as well as the current proposed levy of 6.299 mils, it is important to note that the total millage has decreased 1.813 mils, or 22.35% since its high point of 8.112 mils in 2011-12. With the legislature's decision in March 2016 to reduce the required local effort millage to provide the same effective revenue as the previous year and continue that for the next 2 years, the district's millage rates have decreased 1.078 mils, or 14.61% since 2015-16. Let's take a closer look at that impact to the district from the change in millage that began in 2015-16. Here we see the change in millage each year since 2015-16, as well as the applicable taxable property values. The fifth column over, labeled Lost Revenue from Reduced Millage, shows the impact to the district's revenue in each year because of the reduction in millage, for a cumulative decrease over 3 years of $39.9 million. The next column to the right is the amount of additional annual tax a homeowner would have paid each year if the rate had not been reduced, based on the median price of a home in Brevard County. The next column over, titled Additional Revenue If Millage Stayed at 2015-16 Rate, is the additional revenue the district would have received if the millage rate had stayed the same as it was in 2015-16, for a total of $64.1 million. And again, to the right of that is the additional tax, annual tax a homeowner would have paid. In short, the district lost a minimum of $40 million over the last 3 years due to the legislature choosing to reduce the required local effort millage. The Truth in Millage, or TRIM law, requires us to compare our proposed millage to the rolled back rate to determine if there is an increase in taxes from either an increase in millage rate or an increase in property value. The rollback rate is the millage required to provide the district with the same tax dollars it received in the prior year at the current taxable property value. The rollback rate is calculated by taking the prior year tax levy minus new construction divided by the current year taxable property value. The 2017-18 rollback millage rate is 6.118 mils. TRIM requires that we state that the proposed millage is an increase of 0.181 mil, or 2.96% over the rolled back rate. It is important to note that the advertised increase is a result of the increase in property values and not an increase in millage. To provide some clarity, let's look at the impact of the change in taxes on a homeowner. In the first block, we see a home valued at 2017-18 at $100,000 with a change in property value of 2.1%, which is the Save Our Homes cap for 2017-18, or for 2018-19. The home does have a homestead exemption, reducing the property value by $25,000, making the taxable value of the property $77,100. The homeowner will see a $6.95 decrease in taxes resulting from the decreased millage, partially offset by the Save Our Homes cap and increased property value for tax purposes. The second block represents a similar home, also valued at $100,000 in 2017, but has experienced the average increase in value of 8.49%, with a taxable property value increase to $108,490. As a result of the increase in property value, the homeowner will see an increase in taxes of $26.58, despite the decrease in millage year over year. The proposed here we see the proposed 2018-19 budget for all major funds. The total budget for government funds, which is made up of the operating budget, special revenue, debt service, capital projects, and enterprise fund, which is our after-school child care program, includes revenues of $758,573,966 and expenditures of $797,519,786. Expenditures exceed revenues due to the usage of prior year revenues reserved in the Capital Projects Fund. The Internal Service Fund includes the district's self-insurance programs, employee medical insurance, workers' compensation, and auto general liability insurances. Anticipated premiums is $71,075,451. Anticipated expenditures are $83,721,847. The district is pleased to present as part of the tentative budget the proposed 10-year capital outlay plan for 2018-19. For the first time in history, the district has been able to include this in our tentative budget. A detailed copy of the capital outlay plan has been provided to board members, and a copy is available to the public both on the agenda and here at the meeting. The tentative budget is a first look at the proposed budget for 2018-19. Following tonight's meeting, the district will review and update the budget prior to the final budget hearing based on board feedback and further analysis. Final review and updates are due to be completed by August 23rd. The second and final budget hearing will be held here in the boardroom on Thursday, September 6th at 5:30 p.m. Following approval of the final budget, notification of the final millage and budget will be provided to the Florida Department of Education, the Florida Department of Revenue, and the Brevard Tax Collector. For anyone wanting additional information, they can receive that by contacting my office at the contact information on the screen. And at this time, I would open it up to board for any questions they may have on the budget presentation.
Mr. Ziegler.
Thank you for that presentation. Some clarity on page 7 under LCI shows debt service of $31.5 million. The clarity is that is not our total debt service. You're just there stating the amount that comes out of LCI, correct?
That is correct.
And the balance of the roughly $37 million debt service comes out of impact fees, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted clarity on that because our debt service creeped up over the past year, but I guess that's part of the scheduled payment plan.
Yeah, the scheduled payment plan should keep it around $38 million for the remainder of the years left on it.
Correct. And just to clarify for anybody in the audience or listening, that is servicing debt from prior to 2008.
Correct.
Many, 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 many boards ago. The other question I have is on page 12, where you show the contingency fund of $19.8 million. That has been the steady amount, correct, for this past several years?
It is correct.
Did we not decide to use some of those funds for security labor, such as SROs? I thought that's what part of the way we were going to afford security.
Not at this point. That decision has not been made. It was a discussion. It was discussed as an option, but we have covered the security and labor with the other changes to staffing allocation and maintenance expenditures.
And I believe in the same fell swoop, reeled back on prioritizing raises for employees. And so I thought part of the reason we were going to dip into contingency is so we still had that buffer for raises for employees. Because I don't recall this board giving direction to change that initiative. So I'm kind of confused as to why that money was shifted around, why we're not using contingency and we're using those other funds, which I thought were partially slated for raises. Maybe somebody could explain what I missed.
So essentially, I never made the recommendation. We discussed it, but the recommendation hasn't been made by the superintendent to use reserves for that purpose. But if the board would like to direct staff to do that, then we'll accept that direction.
Okay, my recollection is we discussed that was how we were going to afford the labor. I guess that has not been the recommendation yet, so
That's correct.
we
It
need
was
to
discussed, but that's
hammer
not the
that out then.
superintendent's recommendation.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Susan or Ms. Belford? Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a real quick one. Ms. Zerker, on page 11, you've got the primary home, and then the second one that you have in there, that's for people that own 2 homes, correct?
It would be either a vacation home or if they own a rental home, correct?
I just wanted them to know that's what's there, instead of people that are looking at that thinking that that might be their homes, and that's not, because that
No.
doesn't have the homestead exemption, and that is in the event that you own extra homes.
They
Just
would
wanted
be the
that
primary
clarification.
homeowner.
Yep, thank you.
Ms. Belford?
Just two quick questions, Ms. Zerker, and if you addressed these while I was digging into the numbers, I apologize. One, on our timeline, our property value, our certification on property value came in recently. And then you also mentioned that our, was it third or fourth calc?
Second calc.
Second calc, came in. Do you have an update for us on what those numbers looked like?
Yes. The certified property value did increase just under $1 billion. However, when the calculation was made, there were several reductions, and we ended up coming out $212,000 less than what the conference report said. That was included in an email I provided the board, I think, a week ago. It was mainly driven by categoricals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. The contingency state statute requires a certain amount in there. Am I correct?
Correct. We're required to be at 3%.
Which is,
19,880,000 is just slightly above 3%.
and if we go below that?
Initially, between 3 and 2, we have to provide the Department of Education with a plan of action. Underneath 2, they would come in and take the school district over. That is this year's rules. The rules are changing next year.
Do you know what they're changing to?
They're more accountable. They're holding board members and superintendents more accountable.
Do we have a way to refund that if we took money from there?
We would have to take that out of any new dollars next year first to replace that. Or if there's anything left over at the end of the year, we could try to replace from that.
Thank you. Anyone else have any more questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are now at the public comment section for the hearing. Let me read this. Hold on, Mr. Colucci. The hearing is now open for public comments. We will, in accordance with Florida law, accept the speakers in the following order. The 2018-2019 proposed millage levy, followed by the 2018-2019 tentative budget. So there's 2 separate sections for public comment. Is there any individual that would like to address the board on the 2018-2019 proposed millage levy? I have to ask again. Is there any individual that would like to address the board on the 2018-2019 proposed millage levy? Is there any individual that would like to address the board on the 2018-2019 tentative budget? Mr. Colucci.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the incoming president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. I'm honored to represent these teachers who, like the teachers of West Virginia, Kentucky, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and Arizona, are fighting for adequate funding for public education. We cannot and we will not be silent. We are fighting for our ability to continue teaching in Brevard County. Let me tell you, our teachers care, our teachers fight, our teachers show up, and our teachers vote. For a decade now, our schools have been neglected. Since the recession, Florida is spending $4,078 less per student, the biggest decline in the nation. Since the recession, Florida is dead last in the nation in growth in average teacher salary. And here in Brevard, we have the second most experienced workforce in the state, but are over $1,000 behind the state in average pay. This board has failed our teachers. When you fail our teachers, you fail our students, and you fail our future. Your plan to cut your way to prosperity won't work. It's not a real thing. Ask your counterparts in other states how that plan went for them. I have grave concerns that a board that just last year created $7 million in new spending this year is going to cut the budget to fund raises. In Miami, they're putting out a 20% raise to the voters, while your plan is to cut 2% to make a cost of living increase. But if that's your plan, once again, I say own it. We are no longer accepting broken promises. We don't want to hear about some never-ending compensation study. We don't want to hear complaints about Tallahassee today when you praised them yesterday. We don't want to hear about charters siphoning off students when you support policies and organizations that support that. We demand that you fund competitive raises this year. And if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Thank you.
Apparently, there's no orderly fashion. You all can line up at the podium and get your 3 minutes at will. So if you would like to speak on the tentative budget, the podium is open.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Greco, and I am the business agent chief negotiator for the support staff. I am here this evening. I understand about the budget. I understand the fact that there is not proper funding. But when you're sitting up there and you refuse to take the recommendation of the superintendent, okay, which was put the millage out for a vote, didn't want to do that. Because for some reason, some of us are more concerned where we're going in the future in our political career rather than doing the proper thing for this school board and the children, okay? I've had 2 board members, District 4 and District 3, say out loud in a meeting, we won't give raises to anybody but the teachers. How can you even think such a thing? Don't look puzzled. I can tell you exactly where it is. It's not going to be any of this, the paper misquoted me stuff. Not this time. I can tell you exactly where you said it, and I can tell you exactly where you said it, okay? So there's no denying it. For you to even think that that is an option for you to fill in the $5 million hole you have, I have to tell you, that's the most divisive idea you could come up with. You know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And I think you should consider being public people that the microphone is always on and act accordingly. You disrespect the support staff of this district. Listen, I respect the teachers. The teachers need a raise, but so does the support staff. And for you to say, oh, well, we can cut that in half. We can just give a raise to the teachers only. And then we'll have a surplus. Yeah. I don't forget what's said. I listened to those tapes 3 and 4 times to make sure what I was hearing was correct. Now, the sad part of it is we have 3 board members that have never, to my knowledge, said anything like that. But they're not the ones staying unless they win their elections. But you 2 are staying. We're stuck with you. And one of you is going to be the chairperson. God forbid, okay? So I'm telling you, I never get up here, and I'm not rude to people. I don't berate people, but I am not going to stand for the disrespect that you show to over 3,200 people. Shame on you.
Thank you, Ms. Greco.
Good evening, board members, and good evening, Dr. Blackburn, for not very much longer leaving us. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I want you to think about one word, and that one word is plan. I just want you to think about what comes to mind when you say plan. I know that that's something we do in all aspects of our lives. From the moment we wake up till the moment we go to sleep, we're always planning. And for some of us that can't turn off our brains, it's way later than that. On a personal level, you get up in the morning, you plan your meals, you're planning your budget, your vacations, your errands. We plan all of that stuff. With people with children, you're planning everything for them constantly. On a professional level, we as teachers plan year-round. I know that I have been in my school several times, and there are tons of teachers there on their own time already planning for next year. There's a lot of teachers that have met over the summer planning for our students and what we can do to make their lives and their time in our classrooms better. Not only are we planning, but we are spending. I don't know how many things I've seen on Facebook about teachers spending their own money at Michael's, at Target. You know, our favorite place is the dollar spot. We can't pass that up. My husband hates that place. But we spend our own money and our own time, and that's okay because that's what we love to do. But hearing that you are not budgeting and planning for raises is very sad. If I did my personal budget that way and I just planned for some things and hope that some magical money is going to show up, that is not going to work. You plan for things like this. Last year, we took a 1.5% raise. Yes, we did get a raise. That was not even a cost of living. Social Security received a 3% raise. We, as teachers, give our heart and soul, and I think it's very sad that we have to come up here and beg for little scraps that are left over time after time after time. We love our jobs. That's why we stay. It is not an easy job, but we love it, and we work weekends, nights. We give up things. I could have gone to Paris, all expenses paid, to be my daughter's nanny for her baby, but I didn't want to take off for a week of school. And that was my choice because I didn't want to leave my babies. We have parents that cry whenever they leave their newborns to come back to school, but they do it because they love their job. Where else are you going to find people that are that dedicated to a job? And is it really fair to keep just shoving us aside, saying maybe later, maybe next year, if we have any money left, maybe we'll find it for you? You need to think about that as you go and do your budget on how you are going to plan to keep these fantastic teachers in this county before everyone leaves and you are stuck with tons and tons of substitutes teaching our students. Thank you.
Hello, I'm
If you
Kelsey.
could you state your name?
Yeah, I am going to.
Thank you.
I'm Kelsey Waterbury. I'm a second grade teacher, an executive board member with BFT, and candidate for second vice president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. I recently attended a conference in Pittsburgh where I heard from many important speakers and participated in a march with Parkland survivors. All of this had one common theme: funding for public education. I was pleased to see that others still value funding for our schools and paying for teachers an acceptable wage. I was starting to lose hope because of our recent decisions here in Brevard. I believe you have forgotten that when you're at the bargaining table, you're not just bargaining for us, our teachers, you're bargaining for our future. This just This doesn't just mean the future of our teachers, but our students. Brevard is the second in the state for having the most experience. However, we are one of the lowest for pay. I wouldn't find this so infuriating if our classrooms were up to par with other districts. Once again, Brevard is failing in this area as well. I recently was bringing my things back to school, and I found that my classroom was infested with cockroaches. This is not only my classroom, but in the classroom, they crawl out of the drain in our bathrooms. This isn't fair to my students. Roaches, as you know, trigger asthma and carry diseases. You also can stand at my door and see outside of the door frame because the caulking is gone. I could go on and on about the outdated chalkboards, broken TVs that are a hazard for falling on me and my students, the broken cabinets. But from what I hear, other teachers have the same quality classroom. My room is not the majority, or it's not the minority, but the majority in this district. This is absolutely pathetic and unacceptable. You are failing your teachers and your students. You should be ashamed, and we deserve an apology. And why are teachers staying? One reason, our students, and you're exploiting this. You are taking advantage of by your lack of support with not only a competitive salary, but also inexcusable working conditions. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Senator Elizabeth Warren that she spoke at our conference that I recently attended. And when I say her quote, I want you to replace the word America with each of your names. She said, "America is failing our teachers. And when we fail our teachers, we fail our students. And when we fail our students, we fail our future. And if you continue to go down this same path, I am worried about the future of Brevard." Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Kearney. You have to bear with me because I wasn't prepared to speak today, although this is strictly from my heart. I came for the earlier meeting, the special session, and I want to say to you, Mr. Blackburn, I want to thank you for what you did. You put the pieces together for my son for special needs. I spoke to you at one of the special needs convention, and you did what you said you would do. You put the places together, the teachers together, the staff together. And I walked in on something, and I'm glad I did come back because I came and they said it went through and everything was great. And I said, my need is not here. And I turned around and went on my way. And then I said, the Spirit led me back. And I'm glad I came back. And teachers, I want to say, you are awesome. I always support you. You're great. And you're phenomenal, and you deserve to be paid. And the ones that come, and you know the ones that you are, that do it from your heart, I support you 100%. The ones that don't do it with your heart, you need to get your heart right. I'm going to say that too. Because these kids need you to be right. They come with many things when they come to that building, and they need you to really coach them on their way because they come with many things, and they need you to love them through it. Now, I want to say again to the board that the best thing you can do is to work the numbers. You know you'll have a struggle. You have a lot of things in front of you that you'll need to, it's a lot of things that go on behind. And it's the best way you can do is just navigate. It's a team. We're a team. We have the parents, that's me. You have the teachers, that's them. And then you have the things that are facing you as well. If we all get together, it can work. It really can. So do the best that you can do, because that's all we can do as a unit. And I know we can work it out. And that's all I have to say. And many blessings on your way in your travels. I know you'll do great things. Good night.
So my name is Perry DePietro, and I teach third grade at Riviera Elementary, which I consider to be a great blessing for me. And I don't want to be standing here, but here I am. I just want to make one correction. 1.4% is not a raise. It's not even cost of living, it's backwards progress. And just want to make sure we all get that. So I brought me a little sign today. I was going to hold it outside, but nobody else brought one, so I didn't. And so I just want to make sure y'all see it. It says, "I teach because I love your kids. I work a second job because I teach." So here's the thing. This will be my 20th year of teaching. I have a master's in education, which I earned with a 4.0. I have the equivalent of a second master's, which had I known I would accumulate that many additional graduate credits, it would have been a second master's. Since I've been in Brevard, which is 6 years, I've earned more than 800 professional development points. I'm highly qualified. I earn great, I'm a good teacher. That's bottom line. I'm a good teacher. How about that, Tasha? She's my cheering section. I deserve a raise. I deserve, at my age, with my qualifications, with 20 years in, to not have to work a second job.
My name is Anne Roberts. I'm a speech and language pathologist within the district. I work with high school and pre-K children. And so as I say, I work with, I have tantrums and I have hormones all in the same day, and very often it's me without the air conditioning. Anyway, I've never done this before. I've been a speech path for over 35 years in 5 different countries, and I came here 14 years ago with my 3 children because I heard what wonderful schools we had in Brevard County. I moved from the UK and I needed some convincing, but was convinced. I came into the school system 12 years ago and I was amazed at the dedication of my fellow teachers and the teachers that my children were blessed to have. As a speech and language pathologist, I'm very into visuals. I have on my wall a little visual for my students who are often procrastinators. It says, failure to plan is planning to fail. One of our greatest asset is our teachers. If we don't plan to give raises, we're going to fail. I've just visited my daughter, who against all my advice, followed into the teaching profession. She teaches children with autism. She's moved to out of state. I looked at their salary schedule. There I'd be paid $20,000 a year more than I receive here. She says, "Mum, what's holding you here?" I said, "Right now, a husband and a dog, not a lot." Well, sorry, that's not very nice to the husband. But I can't say it's a job, not when I'm missing out on so much money. I look at my the new teachers that are entering the profession. I wanted my child to stay here, but I can't say to her, "Don't go," when she has so much better opportunities. I look at the teachers that come through in cycles in the 10 years I've been at the high school. And I think, what is it that they're not staying? Why is it that they're not staying? They're not staying because they feel unvalued. They don't feel valued. We've got to do something. We've got to plan. We've got to turn this around. And I appeal to you as the board to do this. This year, I had one of the teachers from the school where I work who's decided to go and drive a bus at Disney. What a waste. I know of other teachers that are driving over to Orange County. We are hemorrhaging good teachers. And it's down to you to plan to succeed, because as I started by saying, failure to plan is planning to fail. Please stop the failure. Plan for teacher raises. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Stolen, and I'm a parent of 2 children at Edgewood Junior Senior High School. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not good at this. hence I'm not a teacher, because I couldn't do it. And I wasn't planning to speak, so I didn't have anything written down, but I'm surprised that there aren't more parents here because I know there are parents that feel like I do. And that is, I'm a selfish mom. I'm super selfish, and I care more about my family than anybody else. And the reason I'm here is because my children have benefited from these people more than anybody else in their life, except for us as family. Those people have raised my kids. In the case of my daughter, she was, I don't want to call her special needs, but she had challenges coming into kindergarten. I fully prepared to not put her in public school if that's what it took, because I was so scared. And my daughter's going into 9th grade in Edgewood. She's a straight A student. She's social, and she's here. She's there because of Mrs. Connaughton. She's there because of Mrs. Langley, and she's there because of Mrs. White at Enterprise Elementary School. It's not an exaggeration to say that they saved my daughter's life. They gave her normalcy, and she's normal and happy, and she'd kill me if she heard me talking about her. I'm also here as a selfish mom because I figure those guys have saved me thousands of dollars. So my son's a senior going into Edgewood. He's taken way too many AP classes, more than his mom wanted him to, and he's gotten 4s and 5s on every single one. He's up to, I believe, 11 AP, 12 AP classes now. If you do the math, and I didn't, I figured those guys just saved me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in Bright Future Scholarship or tuition going into higher education. My point is, raise the millage, ask for what you need, I will pay it. I will gladly give you whatever it takes because I've already saved, I've saved thousands of dollars, and the only reason I've saved that money is because of the teachers that have provided the services that have taught my children well. Without them, I don't know what we'd do. So anyway, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marcy Cipoletti. I have been teaching at Andrew Jackson Middle School as the media specialist. I did not plan to speak tonight, but I did need to tell you something. I've been teaching in Brevard now 29 years. When I entered the teaching profession in Brevard County, I did not make a lot of money, but what I was given was a schedule and steps. And I could say, oh, in 15 years, when my kids are going to college, I'm going to be at this level. When I'm looking at the future, when I went to get a mortgage, the bankers in our town knew, oh, you're a teacher in Brevard County, your income will be growing at this rate. There was a plan. I didn't make a lot of money, but I knew my income was rising. In addition, we had contracts. Sometimes we had them before we started school. We had a contract. Sometimes we had a 2-year contract. We were partners, and we worked together for the benefit of us all. I didn't go into this profession for money. Thank God my husband makes better money. I don't know how people do it today. I really don't. I mentor a lot of young teachers that come in. And the biggest thing I hear from my teachers that are coming in with a year or two, and they're saying, I don't know if I can continue to do this. I love it, but I have no guarantees. What do I have? Maybe a $500 bonus, maybe a 1% raise. So in 10 years, are they going to be making $1,000 more than they're making now? That's not livable, and that's not fair. I was very blessed and lucky that when I came in, when I did, we had steps, we had a plan, and I knew where I would be. They don't have that, and a lot of them are choosing at this point to find something else. So I hope that we can somehow get back to where we used to be. You're not in it to make a ton of money, but at least you know you can live. And you know that as the income, as our prices rise and as things change, that your salary will change. Right now, we don't have that. And bonuses don't do a heck of a lot either for your pension, which many of them don't have anyway, or your retirement. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Connie Rook. I'm also a parent of students that attend school in Brevard County. I have an up-and-coming 10th grader and an up-and-coming 8th grader, and my daughter is attending UF. She graduated Vera High School. Go Gators. Just on point, and yes, teachers absolutely do need raises. If looking at their faces and hearing that they're keeping second jobs in order to just be able to make ends meet doesn't appeal to you. There's 72,706 students, according to Penny's data. That's 72,000 lives that are touched every single day by these people. They don't interact with anybody in this building. They interact with the people sitting in those chairs. Those are the people that matter to us. Those are the people that matter to the parents and the community. My husband and I both retired from the military, spent 23 years moving all over the country, and I will tell you that every time we picked up and had to move, we took orders to Detroit, we took orders to Miami, we moved to Washington, D.C., California. The very first thing I did was open up a map, research the schools, draw a circle on the map, and we picked a house based on that school. And you can guarantee that anybody that's thinking about moving to Florida is doing the exact same thing with Brevard County. An investment in teachers is an investment in your community. There's a hard and strong direct correlation on home values based on the quality of the schools. And you can look at the rating of the school, and you can know, and you can look at the tracking of where the school home values are directly on that. Wherever there's an A school, home values go up. So, you know, your realtors will tell you that. Northrop Grumman, they don't make decisions to move their headquarters or big offices without looking. They can't lure families away from New York. They can't lure families away from California, convince them to move to Brevard County, which most of those employees knew nothing about, unless the families know that they're moving into good schools. I will tell you that we moved here from Fairfax County, which is one of the largest school districts in Virginia. They had $1 trillion budget, I mean, crazy amount of money. Every single school in the entire district was an A school, and they got it because they were supported by the community and the businesses that are there. It is the number one reason that people, so think about this. I know it's amazing and awesome to be able to offer, but it's more than just the school board. You're investing in the community as a whole when you invest in teachers. You're investing in the kids, but also in the community. So you're going to raise property values. You're going to encourage businesses to move here. You're going to have so much more positive impact than just admirably giving teachers raises. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Houston. I am the field staff for the Space Coast AFL-CIO. And being such, some of the people here that have spoken, actually all the teachers that are union members are under our umbrella. It kind of saddens me when I come. Every time I come recently, I realize that teachers are here and they're pleading for help. It saddens me to hear that, and I'm horrified by it. And they're passionate. Yes, they're passionate. And I know that when you took those positions, you knew that at some point somebody's going to come after you kind of hard. But they're coming after you kind of hard because they're hurting inside. Yes, they're passionate. These are the people that we take and send our children to and trust their lives in, and they're going to go home at the end of the day and wonder how they're going to take care of their families. I think that's a tragedy. I remember my daughter, she went through the whole Brevard County school system. Her teachers were excellent. I had one who would even tell me what she ate for lunch. My child was one of the ones that, when the FCAT started out, she was one of the ones with a 90 or above percentile in her school out of 3 children. So when I step before you, I'm standing here in solidarity with these people because I believe in them. They've been there for my child. I see the things that they go through, and it should not have to come before you at all times. And I understand the situations coming from Tallahassee. I go to Tallahassee as well. I lobby. I don't think that you should have term limits, but I feel like when you're here, that your decisions should put the teachers at some point at the top of your ledgers. So on behalf of the teachers that have been there for my child, I'm here for them. BFT is under our umbrella. IUPAT, that's what we call it, the acronym that we shortened and call it IUPAT, Painters and Allied Trade 1010. They're under our umbrella. And so that's over, what, 7,000 people who are affected every year. Every year they come before you. And I've been seeing this, and so I just had to get up this afternoon and support them on behalf of the AFL-CIO. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tahani Kaiser, and I'm a teacher here in Brevard County. And since I've been a teacher for only about 10 years, I was one of those teachers who did short-term contracts and subbed since 2004 and looked at going into the teaching profession. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and business. I have a master's degree in human resource management, and I went to the alternative certification process to become a teacher because that is what I chose to do. I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to serve children because I loved working with them as a substitute and as a contract teacher. When I started that contract job, I looked at the step increases and I thought, okay, I can plan my future. I can see where I'm going to be in 5 or 10 years. Well, when I got hired, you froze the step increases. And so therefore, I have never benefited like all of these wonderful experienced teachers who've been teaching for 15, 20, 30 years, that they've gotten those step increases and they could plan. And my first thought was, wow, I'm gonna make maybe $2,000 more when I retire than I'm making right now. And I was disappointed and I was saddened, but I continued my quest to teach. So I've experienced something these last 3 days at my school by a very wonderful presenter, Courtney Maynard, who did the 7 habits of highly effective people. So I want you to remember this, 7 habits. Be proactive. Think with the end in mind. Prioritize. Win-win. Seek to understand, not to respond. And synergize. When you are thinking about your budgets and when you are planning, you need to be highly effective people because you serve our entire county. You not only serve these teachers and these parents, you serve every single student in the public school system. And if I as a teacher am expected to be a highly effective person, then I think you guys need to also incorporate those principles. Be proactive. Put teachers' raises, staff raises, student spending first. Think about the end in mind. What do you want us to be at? We are going to be the best county in this district, in the state, and that's what you want. Put the end in mind, okay? Prioritize, make it a win-win, listen to us, not just to respond, and synergize, work with us as a group. And come together and help us do our job and help us teach our students and be able to live an affordable wage. Thank you.
Hi, I didn't plan on speaking, but I'm going to. My name is Tanya Anderson. I am a 6th grade teacher at Coquina. This is my son, Braden. He's with me because I'm a single mom. If you've looked at the scores, I'm pretty good at what I do. Braden wants you to know he goes to Enterprise. I give everything I have to my students. He's with me on Saturdays when I tutor for free. I have students come in for FSA prep. I provide them breakfast and I do everything I can. Which is why, if you look at the scores at Coquina 6th grade math, that's what I teach. they're good because I'm good at what I do. My 6-year-old gets occupational therapy, speech therapy. We just started ESE for reading and math. So he has his struggles. But unfortunately, he understands what I can't afford that means, or we need to wait until payday. I just want a raise, please.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Blackburn. My name is Marcus Hochman. I wasn't planning to speak either, but hopefully this will make sense what I had to say. I apologize if it doesn't at times. Your revenue comes from politics, plain and simple. Each one of you have the intent and want to do well for the teachers. But the problem to me, what I've seen the past couple of years, is your organization. First thing is having at least 1 to 2 workshops. I mean, I was kind of dumbfounded by the question that you just asked, Mr. Ziegler, of about 20, 30 minutes ago about the money being spent from, whatever the extra money from, I apologize. But that just kind of shocked me. The second thing is I agree with what Ms. Demro, I think, said last night, and you have to have coalitions. If you want to look at doing something with the levy for next year or this year for the legislation, you just can't have lobbying. You just can't have him back there calling up whoever or going to visit. It takes a lot more effort. It really does to go, okay? You have to have organized community organization and everything else. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful towards him. I'm just making a point. It takes a lot more than that. You have to develop those coalitions at the state and federal level. Who knows what's going to go on with the federal level, and I'll say it again with the tariffs. I'll say it again with the Department of Education, combining with labor. We don't have anything that I know of us working with our federal legislatures, with Bill Posey, with eventually maybe Mr. Scott. I know some of you might not like that, but that's really a possibility, okay? With Bill Nelson, with Rubio. We have nothing of that nature. And those are going to impact us. They're not going to give us more money, but what's going to happen is that what the decisions up from DC are going to impact us more. Heck, we don't even have an ESSA plan from Stewart, still working on that, I believe. We're the last state to be working on that. There's a lot of things that's going on at the federal level that Brevard needs to be a part of. We have a lot of potential. We have a lot of leaders from in here, from all over the Space Coast. Remember, everybody comes here. Apollo missions, this, space shuttle, everything. We have so much talent in Brevard, you have to organize it and use it to your benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board. Good evening, Dr. Blackburn. My name is Dan Bennett. I'm a newly hired math and ESE teacher at Space Coast Junior Senior High School. No offense to anyone in this chair, but I'm taking the top job in the district because I'm a teacher, and that should be the top of the pyramid, and well, that is the top of the pyramid. That's where the miracles happen. I've been stumbling up to this podium for about 14 years now. In fact, I've outlasted this podium. It's the third podium I've burned out. And all of you weren't there when I first started coming up, so I burned out all of you too. And I've been giving a lot of the same speech for 14 years. And I want to tell you where I see the friction as being, where I see the problem as being. And it's because we get into these paradoxical situations. We get into these unsolvable problems. We come up before you and we tell you the nobility of the profession, how important the job is that we do, how important our work is. And you all echo some of that back to us. You can tell us what great results we're getting and how appreciative you are of us. And then there's a breakdown when you send in the chief negotiator to repeat all that information. And then when it comes down to talking about salary, that's where your message that comes from you, we could beat up the chief negotiator, it's all kinds of fun. And we could beat up the finance person, I made a living out of doing that. But really the message comes from you all and your direction that you give these people. And that's where the paradox happens. You tell us how much you appreciate us, and you tell us how great our schools are, and you brag on us in public, But then when it comes time to negotiate the contract, you say that's all that there is. And when I offer something of a solution rather than just adding more friction to the situation, as you hear us venting to you, I want to remind you of what your position is in all of this, because everybody acts on each other in this profession, probably most professions, but I know teaching. You are in between the public and your workforce. You, 5 of you, are the lead educators in this community. We're doing the work of education, but you're the faces of education to the people who elected you. You have the time, you have the resources, you've made it your mission to go out and rub elbows with people in the community. You go to chamber events, you go to homeowner associations, you go to business leaders, you go all over the place and you talk to people, and that's where you should be taking what we tell you, you should be taking that to them. But I have a suspicion that when you go out to them and you start hearing things about live within your means, keep it cheap, you got great work out of that for barely any money. Do it again. Those teachers don't need more. Oh, they're a bunch of whiners or complainers. They leave every day at 3:30, they're home. When they start making those comments, I don't get the feeling that you're giving the pushback. I get the feeling that you're just going along with the easiness to get yourself reelected. You've proven that you can make the easy decisions, like name a stadium after a hero. But can you make those tough decisions? Can you have those tough discussions with the community? That's what we're counting on you doing. Don't let our voices die right here as we vent at you. You take it out to the community. You sell them on the idea of increasing funding to our schools. That way your chief negotiator isn't lying to us when he tells us how much he appreciates us. Hey, this is my last meeting, and I appreciate the few extra time. I'm wrapping up, I promise. This is my last meeting as the president of Brevard Federation of Teachers. It's been the experience of a lifetime to represent this great group, and it's going to be the experience of a lifetime to stand shoulder to shoulder in a classroom with these folks. I'm going back to work for another educational nonprofit, just like you are, Dr. Blackburn. So we're waving the same banner. We're supporting teachers. I urge all of you, take the message to the public. Don't just blame Tallahassee. They're not going to come to the rescue. You all talk to citizens of Brevard County, solve this problem, or there's going to be continued friction. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Blackburn. I come here to observe tonight, but I couldn't help but standing here and telling you. I started to school, I rode to school in a 36 Chevrolet car. It was a consolidated school. I've been in the trades for 55 years, and the companies I worked for, many times we got bonuses for what we did. Now, I hated school, but one thing I learned, can't do nothing. You people on the board, we got a county sports stadium over here that costs millions of dollars, and we don't have enough money to support the school system. We can't teach the students. We got to go out of state and bring people in here to work at the Cape, and we don't have the money to pay the teachers what they should be paying to teach them. We don't have the trades in the school. We're trying to get it. We don't have the budget. You know what's funny? All of a sudden, we need budget money to patrol our schools to make sure they're safe. Where did that money come from? All at once, it come out of the air. Now, if you can't get the money here, go to these corporations that come in here free with all this. If y'all come in here, we'll lower your taxes and everything else. And then they come in here for a while and they leave, and we're caught. I'm retired. I live on a good living. 1 meal budget, I figured it cost me 35 cents a day, and I spend more money than that at McDonald's for a sandwich. Now, you people, You need to sharpen your pencil and go back to the drawing boards and say, I can. I remember a good friend of mine told me, says, mean to don't pick no cotton. So, thank you for letting me speak. You have a blessed evening.
Is there any individual that would like to address the board on the 2018-2019 tentative budget? The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. That will bring us to the recommendations for the adoption of the proposed millage rates and tentative budget. Dr. Blackburn?
There are a total of 3 separate motions for the board to consider. I will read each of these recommendations into the record and request board action. A, adopt proposed 2018-2019 millage rates of operating fund required local effort 4.051, local discretionary 0.748, capital outlay 1.500, total 6.299.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved. Second, someone?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler.
Please vote. Oh,
Comments?
Is there any discussion first? Sorry, Mr. Ziegler.
My hesitation to quickly second is I just really have an issue with the word proposed. We're not proposing, the state is dictating, and we have no choice about the matter. We have to approve it. But nevertheless, we can move ahead and vote on it because if we don't approve it, the state doesn't give us money. Isn't that amazing the way that works?
Mr. Susan, did you have comments?
No.
Ms. Belford?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes 4-0.
Adopt the 2018-2019 tentative budget of operating $622,153,792, special revenue $96,428,792, debt service $41,507,972, capital outlay $211,990,464, enterprise $4,415,800, subtotal $976,496,820, less transfers $53,612,301, total $922,884,519, internal service $81,396,263.
We need a motion.
Move to approve.
We need a second.
Second.
Open for discussion.
I just want to point out to the public that if they were paying attention early when we discussed debt service, which our CFO told us was about 37 to 38 million, and here you see 41 million, that's because of fund carry forward and just that timing on payments from the current year. Is that correct? Thank you.
Mr. Susan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I got one. Penny, is this is the tentative budget, and it includes the transfer of capital over so that we could make a positive budget to the state.
Correct.
And we can change that in the event that we get the cuts from you guys in the future.
The board, with the superintendent's recommendation, has the option to make changes to the budget
At
between
the
now
final
and then.
meeting.
Before we can make the changes before the final meeting and have it in the final budget.
Okay.
Ms. Belford?
Okay.
I have a couple comments just for us as a board and for the public to hear. I just want everyone to be clear that it's a tentative budget. I have some reservations. I feel like we have a lot of work yet to do, but we need to approve this to start moving forward in the process. The final budget, as said, will not be voted on until September 6th. As a board, we know and we've been asked to submit ideas for budget cuts. I know a couple of us have not turned them in yet, and so I ask now that we submit those to either Ms. Zerker or Dr. Blackburn. Is that who they should go to? Because, I mean, we've looked at the numbers tonight, and we know that the only way we're going to be able to afford a raise for our teachers and or staff is through budget cuts. And so I also ask all of you out there, if you are in our schools and you are working within our system and you know of ways that you see that we could cut our budget, please email us. You can email me directly. It's on the school board website. We're open to discussions on those things, so send them my way. Anybody else have any input?
Sure. Penny, do you know when we're going to receive the budget recommendations for cuts from the various departments? Not the ones that we're going through, but the ones that may be coming from the actual directors themselves?
We're still analyzing those and going over them with the superintendent for recommendation. We need to identify the impact to the classroom.
Okay, thank you. So there's no time period that we know of, maybe next week or?
At this point, I do not have a specific date, no, sir.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Please vote. Motion passes 4-0.
Authorize the superintendent to take the following actions. Notify both the property appraiser and the tax collector of the proposed 2018-2019 millage and the following rollback rates. Operating fund rollback rates, required local effort, 4.0240, local discretionary, 0.6968, capital outlay rollback rate, 1.3972, total rollback rate, 6.1180. Notify both the property appraiser and the tax collector of the final public hearing on September 6, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. at the Educational Services Facility, Viera, Florida. Adjust the revenues and expenditures, if necessary, prior to the final public hearing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Open for discussion? If there's no discussion, please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Prior to adjournment of the hearing, the following statement must be read. The proposed 2018-2019 millage rate necessary to fund the tentative budget exceeds the rolled back rate by 0.67%. The hearing is now adjourned and we will reopen the special board meeting. Back to my. Does anyone need a recess on the board before we go back into our school board meeting? Everybody good to keep going? Do I have to? No, we're good. We're good. We're now at public, no, yeah. Okay. We are now at public comments. Those school board policy 0169.1 limits to 30 minutes the portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to participate and provide public comment. The policy further provides that this time limit may be extended by a vote of the board. We have 8 public speakers, and I think some of them have probably left. So we are going to just move forward with all 8 speakers. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of time. When your time is over, you'll be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected at all times, and your statement should be directed to the board chairman. Woman. The chairman may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when time is up. Personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Should an individual not observe proper etiquette, the chairman may request the individual leave the meeting. Let's all encourage an environment appropriate for our children who may be present or who are watching from home. Let's begin with the first 3 speakers. Before speaking, please state your name, the organization you represent, if any, and identify the topic which you will be discussing. Our first speaker is Dr. Scheer.
Dr. Scheer, he left.
Scheer, he left?
He was with the-
Okay, our next speaker is Wendy Nodler. Following Miss Wendy Nodler will be Miss Constance Ortiz. And following Miss Ortiz will be Miss Sheila Mobley.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Wendy Nolder. I'm a 21-year resident of Palm Bay, Florida, and I'm here as a board member for Legacy Academy Charter School. About a year ago, this board approved Legacy Academy Charter to open, and the school received its certificate of occupancy approximately 3 days prior to opening. It had admittedly a bumpy first year, as we know. Not unheard of the first year a charter school opens. As a board member, I've seen in the last month that the board has strengthened its processes and its compliance at the request of this board. They've completed their mental health plan, they've completed their safety plan, and we've scheduled a board refresher training in August. Legacy Academy has an agreement with Green Apple School Management for professional consulting services. And within the scope of services, Green Apple has helped the school to group together the compliance items on the pre-opening checklist in order to satisfy the items identified by the school choice office. With the exception of an inspection and the certificate of occupancy, which is scheduled to be issued tomorrow, the compliance items have been submitted. They've also supported the school in the organization and the recording of board meeting minutes, as well as helping identify policies that may need to be strengthened. The Legacy Board and staff are committed to the success of each and every student, and they're eager to move into their new building when they get that certificate of occupancy tomorrow. Your board has stated that they do not wish to close any schools, and the Legacy Board, students, families, and faculty and staff ask that you look at all the progress that the school has made and lift the 90-day closure. Thank you for all you do for the students in Brevard County, including those in choice schools.
Thank you. Ms. Constance Ortiz.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, school board members, and Superintendent Blackburn. My name is Constance Ortiz. I am the very proud founder of Odyssey Charter School, which opened almost 20 years ago, and the CEO of Green Apple School Management, an advanced ed accredited school management company that provides services to charter schools. But most importantly, I am a mom and a grandmother. A mom that has educated my own children and grandchildren at home, in private schools, public schools, Brevard, and public charter schools. I consider myself to be a true advocate for school choice. And all the teachers here, as you know, they deserve $100,000 a year, each and every one of them. But I'm here tonight to support the Legacy community and their parents and their right to choose a school for their children. I understand and I know that the school had a rough year last year, and there were a good number of valid areas of concern. But this is a brand new school year. Many changes have been made to the benefit of the school and as requested by school choice and this school board. How is the Choice Office advocating and supporting the needs of the children and these families who made a choice to attend this charter school? This is a school with no incidences of crime and entered their first year as a C school, which they know they need to improve. Although the school board has expressed a desire to keep this school open, the School Choice Office visited today and expressed the opposite desire. I think there's a wide gulf between what the school board has expressed and what the School Choice Office wants to do. I believe it is a responsibility of the School Choice Office to provide support to its charter schools. As public servants,
The service you provide to this community is invaluable. I want to thank you for unfreezing the school's July funds. And the final inspection is scheduled for 9:30 tomorrow morning. We would appreciate it if you would consider rescinding the 90-day closure, helping the school open to the 200 students that are awaiting entrance. I know that the families and staff would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sheila Mobley? Mr. Dimitri Thomas? Mr. Robert Johnson? Ms. Linda Graham? And last, Ms. Tiffany Ward?
Good evening, board members, and good evening, Superintendent Blackburn. I would like to read a statement prepared tonight by Ms. Charlene Montford, who is not able to be here this evening. She lives at 430 Dummett Avenue in Titusville. I am the founder and recently elected board chair of Legacy Academy Charter School in Titusville. Let me first offer an apology for not attending this meeting in person. I have a medical emergency that prevents my presence at the school board meeting. I have therefore requested that Tiffany Ward, principal at Legacy Academy Charter School, address you on my behalf. Our new school facility located on 1923 Knox-McRae has passed the electrical, the mechanical, site, and public health inspections. We are scheduled for the fire inspection, plumbing, and building inspection on tomorrow, and on next Tuesday, we're scheduled for the food service inspection. You have received a copy, I wanted to let you know in your emails today, of the intent of the city to provide our CO tomorrow. New families are enrolling their children daily at Legacy Academy, and our teachers, staff, and community are very excited and proud of their new learning environment. Our new facility provides a much-needed boost and improvement to an area of Titusville community that was in a state of decline. We are respectfully requesting on behalf of our board and entire community that you end the 90-day school closure recommendation. I believe we have shown the commitment and will continue to show the dedication needed to serve our community well. That was her statement. I'd also like to make a statement. As the newly hired principal of Legacy Academy Charter School in Titusville, I stand before you this evening truly excited about the progress that we're making daily at Legacy Academy. Our teachers and staff, new and returning, are eager to begin the school year in our newly renovated facility. I have personally called all of the board members and sent a letter to the superintendent today to ask you to come out and visit. I've been very busy ordering curriculum, meeting students and parents, hiring teachers and staff, planning our school year, and working with the Office of School Choice to improve and strengthen our school. As I stated to you in an earlier meeting, I'm a highly qualified school leader with the skill sets and a proven record of educational achievement. I'm confident that we're on the right track to become a highly effective school that you all can be proud of to have in the Brevard Public School System. It is my request that you lift the 90-day termination recommendation so I may continue to work hard for the children and families in North Brevard. I want to thank you for your time this evening, and I really do hope that you'll consider this. It's been a very trying time on my career. I've really put a lot of faith into doing this and put my heart and soul into it, and I just really hope that you'll see fit to let me have the opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Would any board member like to say anything before we close public comments? The board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated. That moves us into the consent agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 8 agenda items under this category, 1 with prior information.
Would any board member like to, I feel like, thank you, Dr. Blackburn. Does any board member wish to pull any items?
No.
I would like to pull F10, please. Tammy, would you please pull F10 for discussion? I will entertain a motion to accept the consent items with the exception of the items that were pulled for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Belford and seconded by Mr. Ziegler. Discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 4-0. Now we will discuss, oh no, we need a motion on F10, correct?
Move to approve.
Second.
Open for discussion? Goes to me. So in general, I have no issues with the bus routes, but it leads me back to my concerns about our budget. And in these bus routes includes our choice regional busing. And I have submitted to Ms. Zerker my requested budget cuts for us to look at as cutting the choice regional busing, which I don't want to do, but it's, the funding is at $1 million if we cut it. I know there are families, we have 1,200 families right now, Ms. Archer, is that correct? 22. Over 2,200 families that are signed up for the choice regional busing. But it's, that would be, we need to come up with roughly $5 million in cuts in order to fund a 2% raise for teachers and staff, and that would be a $1 million cut. And so it's on my proposal. Therefore, I will not support voting for this evening until we've worked that out. I just wanted to get that out there. Any other comments?
I will jump in and say that I have consistently supported another option that would free up that money, and we've been talking about it for quite a while. I think it's a little late in the game to pull the plug or pull the carpet out from under all those students. But I do agree that was a potential place for savings.
Misty, do you know if, first off, I want to say, Mr. Wheeler, thank you. And many of you guys don't know, I mean, we do, but Arby Creech left and Mr. Wheeler took over as interim and has put together this whole bus route, choice busing, everything's been on his lap. So I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Wheeler, for your dedication and working on this project. The other piece is that, Ms. Belford, do you know if the majority of people that may have signed up for your choice school up in Titusville may have signed up with the idea that they had busing to go to it? Does that make sense?
I cannot answer that definitively, Mr. Susan. I will say that I have seen lots of discussion about the fact that there is busing available to Southlake, knowing my community and some of the challenges that my community faces. I would assume that a good number of them would probably not be able to provide transportation to Southlake for their children. But to me, this is a bigger issue than Southlake.
Right.
And I am willing to take a look at options, like Mr. Ziegler mentioned, that would include, families who are able contributing to the cost of the busing. But I don't think that we can pull the carpet out from under people at this point, first of all. Second of all, I go back to the comment that you made in our workshop, that we need to be more competitive to keep students in the district and provide those options. And I feel like this is an excellent example of us doing that, is providing opportunities for students. I would go on to argue that as the representative of District 1, it's important that families in my community have access to programs that can support their children, and that's not always geographically feasible for them, and certainly may not be financially feasible for them without the regional busing. So I will continue to be a strong advocate of this program and that option for them. Like I said, I'm willing to look at ways that we can decrease costs on it, but I think it's critical for my community.
So if you guys remember last year when I presented those plans of rezonings along the Pineda corridor, there was a total of 4 buses that could have been reduced completely because we actually rezoned school children to go to schools and needed that required busing to do it. And if you pulled and rezoned those schools, which we can't do this year, we would be able to eliminate those buses because they're within the 2-mile zone. Also, if you guys take a look at it, there are 11 buses that go 18 miles over 2 causeways. That is over $500,000 a year that fills Delora in the event that we didn't have, if we had a middle school option over here. There's also the Sea Park kids that come out of Suntree. So I would love to open up the bus routes and look at it from a holistic perspective and say, look, there's some areas that we could be doing better here. I do agree with you, though, that I think that it's too late at this point with people literally preparing and planning with supplies based upon the schools that they have, preparing and setting up when those buses are coming, all the work that's gone into it and everything else as of right now. But I think you're 100% right, Ms. Deskovich, is that we have serious cuts to make. And that is no joke. Like, the fact that that gets put on the table is where we're at. And what I can't support doing that at this time, but I do know that the gravity of what you're saying is there, and I think we need to do it. And I would love to have a workshop on the budget prior to the next final budget. It's something we need to schedule up and get ready for.
I agree with that. Do we not have a workshop on the calendar? Does anyone, Pam's not here. Do we know? Either way, can we make sure we
didn't
have
see it.
another, you guys agree? We need to hash
We
out
need to
some of them.
hash this thing.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Are you able to put that up for a vote individually?
The motion and the second first.
I thought
We
we
already
had.
did that.
We had a
We had
motion
that.
and a second for discussion.
Was it Belford and?
Ziegler, I think.
But it's been all night.
Hey, I've motioned a lot here.
Please vote. Motion passes 3-1. Does anyone need a break?
Nope.
Still good? Okay. We will move on to the action agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
We have 4 items, and the first is G16 on purchasing solicitations.
G17.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote on G17, purchasing solicitations. Motion passes 4-0.
Next is item G18 on department school initiated agreements.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Please vote. Oh, motion passes 4-0.
Last is item G20 on the agreement with Brevard County for generators and special needs at special needs shelters.
Wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Open for discussion?
I'm glad to see we have some movement in the right direction on this. What's most concerning is these are not our generators.
Right.
Yet, we were on the hook to repair the one at Sunrise that blew up for whatever reason. And this still states that we will, indirectly says we will pay for half of future repairs. I'm not sure I fully understand that or why we settled on that. But it just doesn't make sense that they're not our generators and we have to repair them.
So I talked to Dan about this today and talked to him at length for about 15 minutes about it, and he felt that it was justified based upon the fact that we use it when our air conditionings go down and there's other situations that we need them for. Because I was in the same boat, Andy. I was a little fired up about having to pay for a generator here, but he said that he supported the recommendation.
Hopefully they won't fail again. Because it does say when they do fail, the county will replace them.
Or hopefully they do fail again, and then the county will replace them, and we won't have to do repairs.
Right.
Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Deskovich. I do have one additional comment on this, and just because I want to keep it top of mind, Mr. Theodore, thank you so much for working through this, and I'm sure my comment is not going to surprise you. We cannot open Oak Park Elementary as a special needs shelter without a replacement on that generator. We absolutely cannot put those people through what we put them through last year, and Dr. Mullins, I know you were on top of it too, so just want to keep it top of mind as we are moving into hurricane season, that we need to prioritize getting something done with that, so we don't have that same situation rise.
Any more Any more discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 4-0. We are now at the information agenda, which includes items for board review and may be brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Blackburn.
There is one item under the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss this item?
I do. Just one real quick comment.
Mr. Susan?
We had a $750,000 grant with the teachers union that worked on professional development with our schools. And along with this, I thought that it would be a great thing to try to collaborate with them. We lost the grant about 1.5 years ago, and I think it's something that we should also, on top of this grant, I think that would be something that we would like to reach out to put into place. I think that the union was definitely in favor of this, and I think that we could definitely work something out. So another $750,000 towards our schools would be great. So I would like to give direction, if you need more than that, to open up that line of communication between professional development and our teachers union to do that.
I agree. It just concerns me that, and I'm not clear, did we not win it prior, or did we not apply for it?
I don't know. We can ask that.
I'd like to get some information on that.
But I do know that it's something that I think that we should look into on top of this. That would be great. Okay. Do you need?
Anybody else?
Do you need a vote on that? Okay. He needs better direction than that. So I think that the thing would be to set, what would you need from us to be said, Dr. Blackburn, to say that we want our professional leading and development to reach out to the teachers union over the grant that we had prior? What do you need from us?
I mean, Mr. Susan, if memory serves me correctly, I spoke to several other staff members who were working on that grant around the costs and the benefits. I mean, at the time, I don't recall hearing a lot of value added to the system around that work, but that's the best of my memory. I can go back and research my notes, but I just don't recall there being a whole lot of value to that work.
So staff made the recommendation that the professional development that was going on there was not good work?
So I think it was a grant
Yep.
that had sunsetted. And again, this was a couple of years ago. I believe staff members were asking for the general fund to pick up that expense or something to that effect. And based on everything else that was going on in the district, I didn't see the benefit.
So I think that there was an opportunity to renew the grant, and I think there might be another opportunity to renew the grant. And I think that without using general funds, if the staff here thought that it was of importance and was of value, I think we should try to do that again. Does that make sense?
Are you speaking about this grant or
No.
another grant?
Another grant that was an opportunity that this just triggered as an opportunity in my mind that we were going after this one, that we should also go after the other one too.
Dr. Blackburn, is it your suggestion there's a grant out there that we should be going after?
I don't know what Mr. Susan is talking about.
I recommend we take this offline. Mr. Susan, if you want to send us all an email, including Dr. Blackburn,
Sure.
with the
We'll do
link
that.
to the grant, and we can go from there. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we are now at board member reports and discussion points. I'll add, you can also put recognitions in here since we skipped that at the beginning of the meeting. Do I need to limit you?
Yeah. You know,
And we will start with Mr. Susan.
I just wanted to say that there was an item on the agenda today that our own Dane Theodore who was going into retirement, decided to already sign up for a vacant appointed position on a local planning board. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And he has started officially his retirement and doing more work as a retiree than he is going to be doing when he was here, because that's what Gary Schifrin did. So I just wanted to say that I've actually printed out all of the Brevard County vacant appointed positions for you in the event that you wanted to sign on more. I think Gary Schifrin actually signed on more of them. And I have those here available for you. That way you don't have to shave more than twice a month, Dane. So I wanted to say thank you, Dane, for continuing to work with us even after you're going to be retiring. That is a big deal. So thank you, because you're well respected throughout our areas. I also wanted to say thank you so much to our facilities department in completing the greenhouse at Rockledge. This is an amazing opportunity for Rockledge, because what's going to happen inside that greenhouse is they're going to take and grow mangroves and seagrass inside of there that will get planted in a joint effort with the Brevard Zoo inside the Indian River Lagoon. And that is going to be a massive, really cool project for everybody to be working on. I also wanted to say that the drone was delivered. This drone, which will be used by facilities, will be able to oversee all of our rooftops and tell where our leaks are at inside the roofs. It'll also be able to fly over all of our fields and tell you where the areas that are not being watered, and do 3D modeling for all of our schools. I also had the opportunity to sit with 7 of our interns that are working at the Coastal Mechanical. So at Coastal Mechanical, we have 7 interns that are working, that are identified as interns inside the trades, along with Richards Paint, ProSource, and a host of other areas like the Brevard Zoo, to where we have over 75 kids actively working today. We have over 380 identified for the program, and it has now become the largest internship program in the state of Florida through the Department of Vocational Rehab. And what's really cool about that is we just found out today that in the event that they wanted to continue in any of the jobs that they're going for, they can become a full-time resident for this program and get paid for college for it too, which is pretty amazing. I also got the opportunity to speak in front of the Legacy Fair, and let me tell you something, those people are awesome. And all of our partners for that were amazing. So I had a whole lot more, but I know you guys are wanting to get the heck out of here, and I'm getting hooks over here, so I'll leave it alone.
You're good.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Susan. Ms. Belford, any recognitions before we go to the discussion points?
I'm ready for discussion whenever you all are.
Okay, Mr. Ziegler?
I'll go ahead and throw one out here, although it's not local. As you all know, I was out of town for the past week. I went to a friend's military retirement ceremony at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque. And my friend, Chief Master Sergeant Robbie Bean, as we know, we have the heart of the pararescue squad here at Patrick, the PJs, the guys that go out and rescue people in whatever condition. Well, they do most of their training out there in Albuquerque, and this gentleman, he trains the trainers. But it's interesting when you go to the retirements, everybody comes up and talks, not quite a roasting, but they talk about all the great things that have been accomplished. And I was amazed to find out about some of the stories similar to our local hero here, Danny McKnight and Black Hawk Down, and everybody thinks that in itself is amazing. So it was a very touching story about how Chief Master Sergeant Robbie Bean and his team, PJs, went in behind enemy lines to rescue a pilot in a downed F-16 that was damaged, and he was very badly hurt, and they saved his life and rescued him, and that pilot became a 4-star general. And how cool to save somebody's life that has such an impact on the safety and security of this country. So I recommend anybody gets a chance to go to a military retirement like we did for Mr. Craig. It's quite a rewarding feeling to learn more about what all these people do. So shout out to my buddy and congratulations on his retirement, even though he's not local, but he's one of our heroes.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. Dr. Blackburn, do you have any recognitions before we move on? I have a couple quick. The staff and team under Dr. Tolks that put together the Superintendent's Summit was fantastic. I think Mr. Susan and Mr. Ziegler and I attended that, and much of the staff. And Ms. Enval, the whole day was really well done. Dr. Blackburn kind of did his sign off, and Dr. Mullins kind of stepped in and did a lot of leadership speaking, and it was very well done. Also, Centerpoint Church in Palm Bay. I'm surprised you didn't mention that one, Andy. Do you want to?
That was amazing.
Yeah, they put together, what is it called? Back to School Bash. I thought I would stop in and shake a few hands. That's not exactly what happens. They hold you hostage and dress you in a t-shirt and put you to work. And so we spent many hours that morning giving out backpacks. They brought in community member volunteers to do dental cleanings and haircuts. I mean, thousands of kids lined up getting ready for back to school, all free to community members that needed it. And it was just a fantastic event. So Mr. Ziegler encouraged me to go, and I did. And it really was something great to see. Did you want to add something there?
And if I could add, thank Dr. Mullins, too, for showing up with his wife and partaking in the event. And thank you to 37 Brevard Public Schools employees from our South area schools and principals that came to the event and also worked to help the students get their backpacks and their supplies. It's an amazing event. Interestingly enough, it appears to have outgrown the church. And they're interested. They made a suggestion on hopefully bringing it to one of our schools because we have bigger venues, and we'll be talking about that going forward.
And Dr. Theddy, too. She was there.
Oh, that's right.
Working
I'm
too.
sorry. Last minute, thank you, Dr. Theddy, for showing up. That was great.
And last, just a quick to the Melbourne Regional Chamber for hosting a meet and greet where Dr. Mullins, him and his wife attended. And it was just a casual, people stopped in, but there was a lot of principals and teachers that stopped in to congratulate him, and it was a really fun event. So let's get on to board discussion points, if everyone is good. Okay, and first is K-22 board meeting calendar. Ms. Belford, I think that's yours.
That is mine. Thank you, Ms. Deskovich. So I was reviewing calendar commitments recently and realized that we have a board meeting scheduled on the evening of the primary election. And selfishly, Mr. Ziegler and I really need to be in our home districts on the night of the primary election. But additionally, I think we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to get out and vote on that day as well. So wanted to propose that we find an alternate date for that August 28th board meeting.
I agree. Do we calendar plan right here, or do we just ask Pam or Tammy to help us find that date?
We can do it now, too.
Tammy?
I just know you have to make a motion to change it, and that has to be re-advertised for the calendar to change and sent to the DOE as well.
Well, we're still in discussion, so what is the, can we move it just 2 days, the 30th? Is
I
that,
think so August 30th would be okay, because there's a rule that says that in the statutes that we have to have 2 per month minus the summer, so if we do move it to that Thursday.
Yeah, my only concern is I don't want us, the 4 of us,
Yeah.
To make the decision on the date and it be a huge conflict with other things in the district. So I'm wondering if we can make a motion to change the date and leave it to just an open-ended change of date and then allow staff to determine the best day to move that to?
will that work? Amy, you think
I
that's okay?
agree. We can make a motion to move it to the 29th or 30th, whatever fits. Give staff flexibility in finding that date for us, keeping it as close to the original date as possible. We went through this in 2014, same problem.
All right, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote, Tammy? Did she say yes?
She's on it.
She's, really? Wow.
Oh, no, it popped.
Here you go. I'll have to just add to the motion, but.
Mhm.
It's not, oh, there you go. Please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, the second discussion item is athletic and extracurricular funding.
That is me as well.
Ms. Belford.
And I had a discussion with Dr. Mullins yesterday about this during our meeting, just to kind of share the challenges, but, this shouldn't come as a shock to board members, but I'm sharing it to keep it top of mind as we continue to work through challenges and find solutions to some of our financial struggles. Also sharing it for the community to be aware of some of the challenges that our schools are facing. So My three high schools, Titusville High School, recently their booster club purchased new equipment for their weight room, but didn't have funding for replacement of the mats on the floor in the weight room. And we're having a struggle with that and reaching out to me to see if there was anything that we could do to assist. Astronaut High School band uniforms are, I think, 35 years old. They are full polyester, and to the point that the students are actually no longer wearing them because they had a couple of students that passed out from the heat of the uniforms. And it cost them, I think, about, I want to say it was close to $40,000 for them to replace their band uniforms, which we don't have a funding stream to support. And then most recently, had a conversation with an advocate, a parent volunteer. She no longer has children in school, but she still volunteers with the school for Space Coast Junior Senior High School. Their wrestling mats are badly damaged, and the cost to replace them is about $70,000 to replace those mats. And so I don't have a great answer, a great solution, but I do think that it's something that we collectively need to be aware of, that those are some of the things that, we don't provide funding for athletics technically, but there are some big gaps in our schools that I think are kind of falling through the cracks, and in some cases can be potential safety issues, like the torn wrestling mats and the band uniforms that students are overheating in. So, like I said, I don't have a great fix for it, but I want us to be aware, and I certainly want our community to be aware as well. So if we have some business partners that could potentially partner with those schools and help them come up with funding. We do have the matching funds opportunity through the facilities dollars for some things, but realistically, especially for schools in some of our less affluent neighborhoods throughout the county, for them to come up with $35,000 to get a match from the district would be a struggle. So just want to put it out there. So if anybody wants to help, let me know.
All those are considered under capital funding, correct? I mean, uniforms, I think, do too.
I'm getting a head
I know
shake
floor
no
mats
from
would.
Dane.
I know
Penny
I know
says no.
wrestling mats, I know weight mats, those all do.
Penny's saying no.
Penny
You
say
get
no.
us $70,000 for wrestling mats, way out of line. I'd say there's got to be a lot more to it than just wrestling mats. But if I could refresh your memory on athletic equalization funding, I believe right now we provide X amount of money per high school across the district to provide some assistance. I forget what that number is. In the past, we did something that was called equalization funding, and what that was is we guaranteed every high school $70,000 towards their athletic programs. And so they would raise as much as they could. They would do gate receipts, et cetera. And if they were to raise over the course of the year, say 50,000, we'd make up the 20. If they topped 70, we didn't give them anything. I don't know what that would look like of converting our funding from a fixed amount per school to the equalization model. We can take a look at that to see if that helps. But that is a challenge, and also in my first 6 years on our board, when it was the funding just kept dropping and dropping, and we were cutting at one point $30 million in a year. The topic actually came up of cutting music and the arts and sports and all of that, and we stood strong on preserving them, but not necessarily funding them. It'd be nice if we can get back to there somehow, but I don't see how we're going to do that when our first priority really needs to be taking care of our employees.
Moving on to 24.
And I'm up.
I wish I had something. Okay, discussion, K-24, athletic fields, Mr. Susan.
So I don't know if you guys saw a lot of the emails that were going back and forth, but we had a situation where the two fields that we were redoing, Vieira and O'Galley, were started, and for whatever reason, they were started literally at the exact same time, but for whatever reason, O'Galley's was completely weeds, and none of the plugs were coming through, and anything was growing out there. So luckily, Duda Company was able to provide the sod for half off, and we were able to sod it at the last minute, and they're doing that. They cleared it, and they're doing that next week, right? But in doing all of this, which was amazing that facilities was able to step up, they've moved all of their people to go do this next week. I mean, but one of the issues that came up that really, really concerned me is we all have been going to our schools and seeing the weeds that are knee-high, right? That is attributed in part to what they're trying to do with the fields. So when we decided to make cuts across the entire board, we basically decimated the opportunity and the rotational times that we actually cut our grass. So in the wintertime, it's not that big of an issue, but over the summer times and everything else, we know what we're dealing with. So it's not sustainable to do it this way. So what I was looking for is to send a recommendation back to facilities to come up with a plan of how that would work. Do we allow coaches to mow? Vieira or O'Galley High School mows their own grass. They were given the opportunity because of a really, really crazy allergy that a girl had to mow their own and do it before 7 o'clock, and they actually do it. And it's amazing. And if you ask any of the facility guys, they will tell you that O'Galley is run correctly and they have no problem with any of their grass. Do we do that? Do we allow the coaches to mow the football fields? Because what we have is besides just mowing, they have to spray, they have to aerate, they have to do all that stuff. And our facilities, as far as athletic fields, are just, every year we're dealing with this over and over again. And we just can't continue to do it the same way. So that's all this was about, was to send a recommendation back to Matt Knoll and facilities to try to say, hey, what do you need in the event that we might be able to do it, maybe even with policy, allowing some of these schools to take care of it themselves in the short run, and then allowing them maybe more units in the years to come. That's all. I didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
So I was at one of my elementary schools this week, and the principal said, "Why can't we cut our own grass?" So, Mr. Theodore, I remember you speaking to this before, because it used to be handled by school basis, not just fields, but just general cutting of grass. Do you know why we changed that, Dr. Blackburn?
I think prior to most of our tenures, I don't know, Mr. Ziegler may have been here, but as a part of budget reductions, there was a cost savings measure to centralize maintenance of fields at schools.
It doesn't cost anything for the current
Custodial units.
custodial.
They don't have machines, I believe.
Oh,
That
it's
was
an
part of the
actual
agenda.
They
cost of.
did reduce the amount of custodial units throughout the district to compensate and do that. They did do that, so they had more time to do it. Anyways, Dr.
We also subcontracted, and most of the subcontractors couldn't keep up with the load. So,
Did Dane just die?
No, he moved up
It's
here
right
because I
there.
called him.
but the man who knows all the details and has been here since the beginning of time.
Can you
If
help
the-
us out, Mr. Theodore?
If the board recalls, as part of budget prioritizations, Mr. Theodore did submit a recommendation to, during the heavy growing months, to be able to make some adjustments to that. Well, in our current financial status, we're at the ability to fund zero of our priorities for next school year. And that was one of them.
During as Mr. Ziegler alluded to, during the years when we were cutting $10, $15, $20 million each year, and we're looking for ways to fill that gap, one of the recommendations that the Facilities Department presented to Dr. Blackburn was centralization of grass cutting. We have two flavors there. We have what we call equipment operators that operate the batwing mowers, do the big fields and the sports fields. That's specialized equipment, and you can't do that with a coach or the custodians. But the custodians were traditionally doing the grass around the school, and they would use the small push mowers and the little zero-turn mowers and the weed whackers and whatnot. As part of the recommendation, the thought was that they were not being able, we had then therefore 85 or 90 little equipment centers, a little Z-turn mower, weed whackers, push mowers, and they weren't being maintained. The safety equipment was coming off of them, and they were asking for capital to replace those, and they weren't getting it, so they were breaking down. we said that we would be more efficient in terms of capital renewal if we could centralize that, and we could do it more efficiently than the custodians were doing at each of the schools, using that part-time. At high schools, they had 1 or 1.5 custodians doing nothing except cutting grass. So as part of a custodial allocation model, reallocation model, we eliminated about 28 positions and moved about 17 of those to this grass cutting crew, saving about, with the elimination of the contracted grass cutting, about $380,000 to fill that gap that year. I can tell you that we're not doing a very good job of it. We simply can't keep up. We work overtime, which reduces that $380,000. We tried to, in the summer, hire an additional crew member on a temporary basis, contracted, to do the edging and detail mowing, to try to help, and we simply can't hire more than 2 or 3 people. We can't get those people. So even though you gave us 0 to do that, and I said we would take care of it because we're trying our best to cut the grass, we simply can't get those people. They're not coming to us despite our best efforts. So we did save money. We're not doing a very good job of it. Our turnaround time is about 12 days, and you know you have to cut the grass at about 7 days during the summer here. So we're working overtime as much as we can, and the batwing mowers, the grass cutting on the fields is really restricted not by the equipment or the people that we have, because we have enough equipment people to do that, but rather when it gets wet, we simply can't get onto the field. So there's no good solution for that other than dry weather, but it frankly is a problem. Now, we could allocate back those 28 custodians and spend about $400,000 equipping them again and trying to keep that equipment running at the schools. But absent that, we will continue to try to do our best.
Dane, is there anything against just allowing, because I've heard many of my principals say, like I tried to donate my weed eater to my school, Suntree, and she said, no, I can't do that. We're not allowed to mow our grass. Are they allowed to?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, what I say to all the principals is, if you want some equipment like a weed eater or an edger or a blower, we will give it to you. In fact, we have given it to a dozen schools that do that. It was at O'Galley, as you mentioned, there was a student with a very severe allergy, and I think Ms. Klein used some of her money, Ms. Reinhardt, Dr. Reinhardt used some of her money to purchase a zero-turn mower and equipment for O'Galley, and they're successfully doing that. So it may work at the high schools, where if we were to have enough capital, our FF&E was reduced this year, so I can't buy them those mowers. But if I think if the high schools were given equipment, they could successfully do that. It may not be as with a reduced number or the small number of custodians, some of our small elementaries, it may not be as successful.
Go ahead.
I just have to enter into the conversation what I know my friends, Dr. Sullivan and Mrs. Klein, are back there thinking. If we assign yard duties to principals, I mean, it needs to be reminded that we haven't figured out third grade literacy yet. We haven't figured out middle grade algebra. We haven't figured out how to perfect our graduation rate. And that's what those instructional leaders ought to be spending any and all time doing. So just want to add that to the conversation.
I agree.
Can we communicate? I have a principal specifically, just like I said this week, that said she was not allowed to have anybody cut the grass. That's what she felt like was the rule. Apparently you have the same thing. I know our maintenance guy there at the school used to, the PTO, we bought him a lawnmower at one point, and they feel like they can't cut the grass. Is there a way to let them know this can be done if they choose, if they have equipment, please? Okay. That works for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Theodore. Anything else? Mr. Susan?
Yes, so that's great in the short run, and that gives us an opportunity because like the 12-day turnaround, if it rains 2 or 3 days, then they can't get out there, you're starting to look at 20 days, right? But we do need a plan, and if Dane's plan was to have extra people work and he wasn't able to get there, we need to come up with a plan. So that's what I was trying to make this for, is if we can give direction to come back with a recommendation of what that looks like, just so that we have it in the event that we have money in years to come. Does that make sense?
I was just going to say, we don't need a plan, we need money.
So,
I mean, you can't plan
right.
without the cash.
But every time we go to say that we have the cash now, it takes another year before we can actually plan for it. So if we can just plan for it and say this is what we need, then in the event that a year from now we have the cash, which is not this year, we'll be able to find it. Does that make sense?
Help me out, Ms. Belford.
I'm pretty sure that Mr. Theodore already has that information together, so it wouldn't be too difficult for that information to be on hand, I believe. Mr. Theodore is giving me a positive head nod from the back of the room, so we're good.
Perfect. And just so I'm clear, can I get a thumbs up or down that we can also allow the coaches to mow their own grass if they so choose?
He said that's a special mower.
No.
I believe he said that takes a very special, complicated, expensive mower that the schools do not have. Is that what you?
Yes, ma'am. The sports fields require a very specialized mower, and there are only so many of them. We need to be.
No, I agree with that.
And I think, I'm sorry, and I think Dr. Sullivan reminded us that those coaches, when they're not coaching, they're teaching.
So one of the other things that I was going to mention is that about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the sod farms realized that they didn't need the real mowers for some of their sod. And if you call a lot of the panhandle sod farms, which part of my family members own a sod farm up there, they'll tell you that they're moving towards not the $70,000 real mowers, but these $15,000 to $20,000 other type of mowers. So there's an opportunity for them to be able to do it with what we see as a regular mower. It's a little bit different, but it's a lot less expensive. So I would like to start moving towards allowing people that if in the event they want to, they can do that to reduce the amount of windows. That's it. And I understand that our coaches might not want to, they have to teach and everything else, but I will tell you, if you go talk to your coaches and ask them, would you like an opportunity, if you had the opportunity to mow it, they'd say, heck yeah. And I'm not saying, you know, go ahead.
Ms. Belford?
Having spent some time in a past life responsible for maintaining athletic fields, I can tell you that the folks that are currently responsible for maintaining those athletic fields are currently having a heart attack that you're talking about putting coaches out there to mow. So just, the only thing I would say is there needs to be some coordination there. I think certainly if we can get, you know, if there's access to equipment cheaper, but I think athletic fields are very different than, you know, your yard or my yard or the rest of the school. And my only concern is that we are actually going to cost ourselves more in the long run by trying to do it improperly. That could be incredibly costly. But I see where you're coming from, Mr. Susan, and I think if there's an opportunity to expand and get some additional help with the field maintenance, I think that would be great.
We're good?
You good?
I have one more discussion.
Okay, Mr. Susan.
Okay, now on to, so there's our Junior Achievement, great organization, and they just got hit with, and this may not be, this is just literally something that was called as I was walking in here.
He called us all, I think.
He did. Okay, so you know about this.
He called me.
Oh, I got an email.
So let me ask you, is that, I wanted to discuss that. We have people from Eastern Florida. Here's what it is that our Junior Achievement volunteers may come from Eastern Florida State College, and younger people who may not have the money to pay for badges, right? And to be background checked and fingerprinted and all that stuff. The rule says that if there's a teacher with the person, that they do not need to get badged and they can come that day and volunteer. They have been told that because the teacher may once in a while leave, that they have to all get fingerprinted, badged, and everything else. I wanted to bring it up as a discussion point because I truly believe that when I was teaching, that if there was anybody in my kids, I never left. So I think that that was part of what we're doing. And you know more about JA, so I just wanted to bring it up. I didn't know that the people had called you too.
Well, I have a couple thoughts on this. One, Mr. Major Walters, sorry, your name slipped my mind, and I had a discussion about this when it first came out because I had concerns about the reoccurring cost to volunteers. However, the new system is way more thorough. Apparently, in the past, if a volunteer came in and was fingerprinted, and then in 6 months, it was every 3 years was renewal before, and say 6 months they commit a serious crime, we were never notified until they renew 3 years later and get re-fingerprinted. This system, even though it's going to be an $8 annual renewal, we'll be notified right away every time something happens, and so it's part of the new security measures. I understand he put in his message to me, he was concerned about teachers leaving the room for when JA instruction is going on. I think that has nothing to do with this policy at all. He wanted us to modify this policy. That has to do with our agreement with JA, I believe. And Dr. Mullins is on the board of JA, I believe, correct? So if you feel like you want to speak to this at all, I mean, you're over security and you are on the board of JA, so you probably have more knowledge than I do about this. I feel good about having everyone that enters our schools for a period of time background checked, fingerprinted, and it annually checked. So I support this, but Dr. Mullins, you have something to add to that?
Well, I would just add that it is the expectation of JA that the teacher remain in the classroom with the JA volunteer for the entire time that they're in the classroom. And that's communicated with our schools. That's part of the understanding when they agree to have them be a part of the classroom environment. I did discuss this with Major Walters and a JA volunteer because it's a infrequent visit. They and because they're with the teacher and in line of sight with the teacher their entire time, they can be in the classroom without the full background check, but they still have to check into the front office like any visitor would have to and be escorted to the classroom.
Get the yellow badge.
Yes.
Perfect.
Does that
That's
satisfy
great.
everybody's
I
concerns?
just didn't want to.
I'm perfectly okay with that, especially since substitute teachers don't get badged.
We do get background checked, absolutely.
But they don't
and
have,
you're badged.
they don't have their own ID.
I believe I have a hard ID from.
I was told that changed a little while ago. And I brought that question up and I hadn't got any clarity on.
Substitutes are provided an ID when they check in at the school.
It's just a substitute ID. It's not their own.
Correct.
Right. And they may get background checked, but they don't get an ID, whereas a volunteer gets an ID. Is that correct?
No.
I thought a volunteer got a volunteer badge.
No, we don't provide a volunteer badge either.
No, times are changing.
So the hard volunteer badge is no longer?
No.
Major?
So every time a volunteer, I mean, some of our schools have literally like 60 volunteers lined up in the morning, and then, we were able to just swipe badges. Now they're going to have to sign in and get a yellow sticker each time?
Back up on the question again, I'm sorry, I was chatting on the way up here.
A regular volunteer at the school, we
Uh-huh.
used to be issued hard badges that we could put on a
Oh.
lanyard. Is that no longer?
No longer. Yeah, we have 32 registered volunteers in the county. We're not going to be able to afford that.
You have 32 registered volunteers.
We have, yeah, in Raptor, we have 32,000.
32,000.
32,000, yeah. It's not practical to badge every volunteer. Most of our volunteers that are registered because they want to go on a field trip. It's not coming to the school to volunteer.
But some of our schools, they're there every day, even all day.
Right. Whether they'll check in and they'll get their volunteer badge every day when they come in. It's more economical to do that.
So
Can they pay extra and get a hard badge?
Well, it's not feasible.
There's
No,
no-
they can't because we're going to set a precedence and then it's not cost efficient. That's our recommendation to you. We don't have the staff to offer up to have over 30,000 people come in if they all want a hard badge with their picture on it.
I'm not trying to be a pain, but I've
No, I know you're not.
volunteered for years in our front office with that little machine that spits out the yellow papers, and many, many days that machine didn't work, and we had to handwrite people checking in and sticking it on there. It was much more credible to have the hard badge, especially in schools where there are continuous, huge numbers of volunteers day after day. So are you saying there's no way to make that happen?
Well, there's
Even if
always
they
a way
were
to make
willing-
everything happen. I mean, but we got to look at the money side of it and the human capital side in district security it's just not practical. The other thing is who's going to have the accountability of that volunteer in retrieving that badge? When they decide they're not going to volunteer anymore, who's going to collect that badge?
So Major Walters, you and I have had a very similar
Yeah.
conversation previously, because I had a volunteer badge, and then when we did away with them, I was getting barraged with why can't I get a real volunteer badge? So at the time when you and I had the conversation, one of the things that you recommended was that the schools laminate their own,
They can do
their
that.
own in-house
That's
placard, volunteer badge, whatever it is, so that when the volunteers come in the morning, we run their license through Raptor, they're handed a laminated badge that says Enterprise Elementary volunteer, and that's kind of their clearance through the school for the day, and then it can be collected when they leave. Is that still an appropriate solution?
That's fine, if the schools want to do that. I mean, your ID badge is for your fellow school staff. Most of them already know them. I would challenge the schools when you go there and look at the volunteers, most of them don't even wear their yellow sticker.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that you're going to give them a badge that most of the staff already know who they are, who are regularly volunteering at the schools.
So one of my schools has issued, starting last year, and I know the principal has in works to continue and expand this year, they've issued all parents that want to walk their kids to the door through the gates, hard badges to say, I'm a parent, I'm supposed to be here. And then teachers are checking those as they're coming through every gate to help with their security. Is that
That,
okay
that's,
under
that's
this?
fine. The only problem with that is, and I've expressed it to those principals, is they're not doing a daily check with their driver's license through Raptor to confirm if they're a sexual predator offender.
Right.
That's that whole
Okay.
system
But that's
of
just coming
registering.
and going in the morning and afternoon, and so we don't
Yeah.
usually check that anyway, so hers is a higher level. But if they were going to stay, they would need to check in and get handed some other type of badge or the sticky badge, correct?
Well, we prefer the sticky badge because they're getting that through Raptor, a system that we pay for. And at the same time they get their badge, we're confirming that they're not a registered sexual offender or predator, yeah.
I think
just
our
don't
JA issue is solved, right?
So so there's nothing wrong. So they just check in at the front, they just need to make sure the
It's
teachers
going to
know we're
be,
there?
it's going to be a process with parents, especially in my high-volume parental involvement schools. It's going to take a while for people to, but JA's
But
great.
JA,
good.
we have the,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
understanding that
I'm
they,
sorry.
as long as they're volunteering and the teacher doesn't leave the room, which is JA standards, then there's no issue. They don't need to go through the fingerprints and do all the stuff.
No, that's correct. that falls under Jessica Lunsford Act.
That's it.
And there's an exception to that under Florida statute, that if they stay in the line of sight, then they're not required to be registered and have their fingerprints on file.
Beautiful.
But as long as they go into the front office and they scan their driver's license, we can confirm if they're a registered sexual offender or predator, that's a requirement before they go back there with the children. And then they got to stay in the line of sight with the BPS employee, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sir. Anybody
got
else
it.
have questions about volunteering, badging, scanning, Raptor? Okay. Dr. Blackburn, do you have anything to report?
No, ma'am.
So a birdie just told me, and this is your last meeting, is that correct?
This is, I think it is.
Who's laughing? What did
It was probably the birdie.
Yeah. A couple of birdies just told us that this is your last school board meeting. We are a very bad board because we are just now aware of this, but we need to do something. I'm trying to think creative on the top of my head of what we can do to show your appreciation for your 3 years here. I can give you my words of appreciation, and maybe give our board members an opportunity to say something if they would like. And I'm sure we can give you a big round of applause since this is your last meeting. But I have no treats, no chocolate, no cookies. I've got some mints to maybe toss at you.
Kind bar.
A kind bar.
Well, I don't think he wanted you to know because he was afraid, Tina, you might suggest a lip sync goodbye to him, and that would be pretty embarrassing.
Not a bad idea. We're not going to take it anymore. You're not going to take it right out the door. Do you want to add anything? We'll start with Mr. Siegler.
Sure. Is this like a roasting,
Yeah.
goodbye, farewell? It's been great working with you. I know in your heart you really wanted to stick around. And I had always took comfort in that, and I also took comfort in knowing that it would be really difficult for somebody to get you to come to another school district, unless, of course, it was closer to your family. and the chances of that was slim to none. I also knew that as a highly qualified person in your position that you were going to be pursued. I think we all knew that. And did not expect such a wonderful job to fall in your lap, but congratulations. And I wish you all the luck, and I'm sure you'll keep in touch, and I'm sure you'll be there if we have questions or need guidance. So thank you for your service.
Ms. Belford?
So I propose that we find time for a board superintendent karaoke night before you leave.
I think we do have some one-on-ones, I think, left over, or like his evaluation time. or
We
something.
do.
We do, don't we? Could
We
we
do.
consolidate those into one?
Potentially.
And, Tammy, you think we could work on something like that?
Tammy's on it. No, in all seriousness, though, I knew we were in trouble when I walked upon a headhunter recruiting you away from us at the FSBA conference. Like, I think you had only been here 6 months or a year, and they were already swarming, trying to lure you away from Brevard. And I have told everyone that I've spoken with that you were constantly sought after because everyone recognized your leadership and all that you brought to Brevard. And through all of that, you turned it down and turned it down and turned it down and turned it down. And we're very committed to be here with us, which I appreciate. I also respect that your current opportunity is just an opportunity that you can't turn down. And I wish you all the best. I hope that you definitely will be at the end of the phone so Dr. Mullins can call, or we can call, or the rest of the team can call and seek your guidance as you go forward. And I have no doubt that you're going to do great things. So thanks for giving us a few years.
Mr. Susan?
Yeah, for me, it was a shorter amount of time than some of the other ones, but the thing is that I ran because of you. I was one of the individuals that was sitting in the back of the room when you came in for the first time, and we blew out all these doors. And as a teacher for the district for 9 years, I'd never seen that. And the way that you came in and you created community and worked with everybody, and then held this district accountable and worked through it. And you've been a pain for me sometimes, but I appreciate that. Sometimes, just sometimes. But the thing is that I appreciate that, and there's respect there. And I am glad that you didn't go to another district, because that to me was a lateral move, no matter how big it was. I know that your passion's for teaching, and I'm so proud that you're going to go up there and you can affect change across, the entire nation. And I think that that opportunity is needed, just like they were talking about earlier, about how nationwide teaching's a crisis. And I think that you're going to be the right person for the right job there. And I do truly appreciate you being here at the district. Wish it could have been a little bit longer, but I wish you the best of luck. And I'm still looking forward to that last bit of, I think I can do something at that place that has the hidden rooms and all that stuff over there.
Escape room?
There it is, escape rooms. And I think that we can set it up, some kind of a competition through the climbing areas, right there, right next to the mobile home park on US 1, just south of Pineda.
Yes.
Adventure headquarters.
Yes. Adventure HQ.
I think I know the owner. There you go. So maybe we'll do something like that, and then we'll videotape it, and we'll have that forever. So that if you do get a bigger head when you get up where you're going, we can just play that every once in a while.
Okay, and I'll close it out with echoing the words of my fellow board members, Dr. Blackburn. We have been very blessed to have you here at Brevard Public Schools and in Brevard County. Your leadership skills are second to none. You have brought the community together when we were really struggling as a district and even as a community. You brought many people to support education in our community, which wasn't happening when you arrived. We've had our struggles over the last 2 years as a district. We've had some pains and aches, but overall, I think everybody is pleased. And your sense of getting people upbeat and excited, and your ability in the worst of times, if I'd say, how are you doing? I am fantastic, Ms. Schwaz. How are you? You picked up on my high school nickname and continue to use it, and I find that very endearing. So thank you for your time here. We are very, very blessed to have had you here. Would you like to say anything before we adjourn the meeting?
Thank you. Thank you so much, not only for the words tonight, but I have sincerely felt the support my entire 3 years here. This county is a phenomenal place to live, learn, work, play. There's so much greatness going on. I'm thankful to the community. I mean, I'm humbled and appreciative for you to say those words about me, but this community has been so receptive and so extremely supportive of public education. With that high level of support, this community is rightfully so demanding on us as public education officials. We wouldn't have it any other way, right? But very supportive, very appreciative, and it goes without saying, and I think Mr. Ziegler alluded to it, all of you did, this is not me running away or leaving something. It was just an opportunity to pursue something both personally and professionally gratifying, and to really take support of teaching to the next level. It's the most important thing that we do for society, and there are struggles. The struggles we have here locally are the struggles we have across the country, and I know that if not for our right to work policy, I mean, our teachers in this state are right on the same edge as so many other teachers in so many other states, and we do have to figure it out. Listening to some of the conversation up here, I can't help but mention this stuff, but education is in need of more funding. I mean, to listen to the fact that we're cutting tens of millions of dollars per year, to listen to knee-high weeds and grass on our schools, to listen to band uniforms that are 35 years old, and there are people who think we don't need more resources. That's just ridiculous. We are as responsible as any other entity and organization, and America's children could use more resources. And I hope to take my advocacy to a statewide, national level around that. And Brevard will always have a very, very warm place in my heart. My son will be a freshman at UCF, not too far away, so I'll be coming through. I won't stop by Dr. Mullins because I know you'll have your hands full, and I don't want to walk in on any concerns or problems that you're working on. But just appreciate everything over the last 3 years, and looking forward to, not going to say goodbye, looking forward to continued friendship.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Yeah, let's go on. All right, there being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned.